Hello, welcome to the Gavel. I'm Terry Ikumi. Second week of resumption for the National Assembly. What have the lawmakers been up to? Well, the Senate continues to sit twice weekly, while the House sits 3 times. So let's begin with the House of Representatives. The Green Chamber is questioning the probable exclusion of Rivers State from the beneficiaries of federal government loans for projects. Now, this is a sequel to a motion of urgent public importance by Representative Solomon Bob, alleging that Rivers State is the only state out of the 36 states to be left out. Also, the House has expressed concern over the trend of Nigerian citizens being illegally detained in foreign prisons. The lawmakers want the federal government to urgently intervene and secure their release. So here's a report on proceedings in the House of Representatives in this past week. It's been a little over a week since President Muhammadu Buhari wrote to the National Assembly requesting approval to borrow $4 billion and 710 million euros from bilateral and multilateral organizations to fund the deficit in the 2021 budget, including critical projects. During Wednesday's plenary, a lawmaker raised a matter of urgent public importance, alleging that his state is the only state that will not benefit from the loans.
The House notes that Nigeria is a federation that professes equity, fairness, and social justice. And to this end, there are several constitutional provisions prohibiting all or any forms of discrimination on the basis of partisan leaning, religion, place of origin, or tribe, amongst others. The House further notes that Section 15, subsection 4, and subsection 5 of the Constitution provides that the states shall foster a feeling of belonging and of involvement among various peoples of the Federation to the end that loyalty to the nation shall override sectional loyalties. The House notes again that Section 16, subsection 2, paragraphs A and C of the Constitution provide that the state shall direct its policy towards ensuring A, the promotion of a planned and balanced economic development. 2, that the economic system is not operated in a manner as to permit the concentration of wealth or means of production and exchange in the hands of a few people or a group. The House observes that the foregoing provisions impose a duty on the federal government to ensure equitable distribution of resources and projects across the Federation and among the states in such a manner as to eschew exclusion and ensure fairness in administering the affairs of the government of the Federation. There is concern that the federal government is widely reported by This Day newspaper, page 57, the Tribune newspaper, page 31, all of 21st September 2021, among other dailies, to the effect that Rivers State is the only state that is excluded from the list of state beneficiaries of projects to be executed with the loans. The House is worried that the reports, if true, render the federal government's action as not only contrary to the spirit and letter of the Constitution, but cruelly discriminatory against the people of Rivers State, and such a discriminatory treatment is capable of creating a sense of alienation, exclusion, and discontent. The House is further worried that it is incomprehensible that Rivers State, which contributes enormously to the country's foreign exchange earnings and through whose oil and gas resources a large part of the loan repayment depends, could be inexplicably excluded from benefiting from projects for which the loans are being sought.
Meanwhile, the House wants the federal government to urgently commence emergency repairs of the failed portion of Onitsha-Owerri expressway. The matter was raised as a motion of urgent public importance by the Deputy Minority Leader.
That a gully has suddenly emerged on the Onitsha-Owerri expressway around Orifte, Egusigo local government area, Anambra State. The House further notes that this development has cut the expressway into 2 parts, leading to the entrapment of fuel tanker laden with diesel in the gully. The House is aware that it took the intervention of the personnel of the Federal Road Safety Corps to ensure that the contents of the trap tanker was transloaded while the remaining portion of the road remains closed to avoid loss of lives. The House is concerned that the Enugu Onitsha that Onitsha-Owerri Express offers a bypass to several communities in the southeast, as well as connects the southeast and south-south geopolitical zones of the country. The House is worried that the present condition of the road has made the road completely impassable, as same poses great hardship to motorists, other road users, host communities, and constitutes threat to the lives of the people, hence the need for urgent government intervention. The House further notes that several portions of the Enugu-Port Harcourt Expressway are failing, even while the contractors are still on site. The House is worried that the rehabilitation works on the Enugu-Onitsha Expressway has been abandoned, as evident in the immense hardship being experienced by motorists and other road users in the Amasia section of the expressway. The House is concerned that the economic well-being of our people is now in serious jeopardy, which can lead to a great humanitarian and security crisis. The House is cognizant of the precarious security situation across the nation, which may present opportunity to criminal elements to take undue advantage of these situations.
The House also wants all federal roads to be urgently attended to.
Anybody but the...
In the meantime, following the failed doping test of Nigerian athlete Blessing Okagbare, the House has mandated its Committee on Sports to invite the sports minister.
Aware that the Athletes Integrity Unit alleged that Blessing Okagbare, who won the open heat of the women 100 meters, are tested positive for human growth hormone. Also, aware that the allegation further affirmed that affected athletes failed to comply with the rules requiring those from countries deemed to be at high risk of doping to undergo 3 non-notice out of competition tests in the 10-month period leading up to a major event. Concerned that despite the huge funds being made available yearly for the regulatory agency in the sports sector, adequate efforts have not been made to get Nigeria into the category where they will be deemed to have made significant improvements in anti-doping tests. Urge the Ministry of Youth and Sports Development to put necessary measures in place to ensure compliance with a third regulation at both local and international competitions. Third, to mandate the Committee on Sports to investigate the immediate and remote cause of the failed doping test to federal tests to forestall future occurrences.
The Green Chamber is also urging the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports Development to put necessary measures in place to ensure compliance with extant regulations at both local and international competitions. The House of Representatives has expressed concern over the trend of Nigerian citizens being illegally detained in foreign prisons. The lawmakers want the federal government to urgently intervene and secure their release. This is sequel to a motion raised by Representative Dennis Idahosa.
The House notes that Nigerian citizens are in almost all countries of the world, making exploits in sports, technology, business, education, and politics, and have been ranked as one of the highest educated immigrants in foreign countries. Also note that due to the large population of Nigerian diaspora community, the Nigerian in Diaspora Commission, DEDCOM, was established to provide the engagement and participation of Nigerians in the diaspora in the development of Nigeria. The House is aware that the International Convention and treaties prescribe that anyone charged with a criminal offense is entitled to a fair hearing within a reasonable time by an independent and impartial tribunal established by law. The House also cognizant about the report of any Nigerians languishing in foreign prison, some whom are illegally detained, while some are exposed to labor exploitation, poor living conditions, discrimination, sex exploitation, and other forms of dehumanizing treatment. Worried that from 2019 survey reports by the Legal Defense and Assistant Project Leopard, about 16,500 Nigerians who are in prison outside the country were convicted without illegal representation and without legal representation and not knowing why they are in jail. Believe that the federal government needs to employ diplomatic means to assist Nigerians who were wrongfully detained and have been detained in various prisons abroad.
The House then mandated its committees on foreign affairs and interparliamentary relations to ensure compliance.
Security documents to the public.
Meanwhile, a security concern was raised by Representative Samuel Adejare, which he says could pose great risk to the lives of security personnel and the entire security network of the country if not addressed promptly.
The House notes the recurring incidents of leakage of classified security documents to the public through various social media platforms, online print media, and other sources, which are jeopardizing the fight against insurgency, banditry, kidnapping, and other crimes in the country. The House also notes that the federal government has made concerted efforts through provision of human, material, and financial resources in the fight against insecurity. Concerned that the leakage of classified security documents and other acts of sabotage is causing failure of intelligence gathering, misunderstanding, and lack of cohesion among operatives involved in different operations against insurgency and other acts of terrorism in Nigeria. The House is disturbed that the unfortunate situation is enabling other acts of crimes and criminality such as jailbreaks, mass abductions, invasion of farms, and animal rustling. Worried that if such acts of sabotage are left unchecked, they may pose great risk to the lives of security personnel and ultimately imperil the country. The House resolves to mandate the Committee on National Security and Intelligence to carry out a detailed investigation on the matter and report back within 2 weeks for further legislative action.
Also, a bill to amend the Power Sector Reform Act for the first time in 16 years scaled second reading, and a public hearing is to follow. 36 clauses have been proposed for amendment. Let's go to the Senate now. President Muhammadu Buhari has written to the National Assembly seeking amendments to the Petroleum Industry Act. The president is asking for an amendment to the administrative structure of both the commission and authority to make provision for better geographic representation in the boards. Meanwhile, the Senate has set up a conference committee for the Electoral Act Amendment Bill and has considered and approved the report of its Finance Committee on the Medium-Term Expenditure Framework and Fiscal Strategy paper.
A little over a month after President Muhammadu Buhari signed the Petroleum Industry Bill into law, the National Assembly has received a communication from him for an amendment of the law.
Distinguished colleagues,
at the commencement of Tuesday's plenary, Senate President Ahmed Lawan read a letter from President Buhari seeking confirmation of appointment of the Secretary and Board members of the EFCC.
In accordance with the provision of Section 2, Subsection 1 of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC Establishment Act 2004, I hereby forward for confirmation by the Senate the underlisted nominees as board members of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. The nominees' CVs are attached herewith. George Abang Ekpungu, Secretary of the Commission, Cross River. Lukman Mohammed, Board Member, Edo. Anumba Adazi, Board Member, Enugu. Alhaji Kuala Rahim Adeshina, Board Member, Kwara. Alhaji Yahya Muhammad, Board Member, Yobe. While hoping that the Senate will consider and confirm the nominees in the usual expeditious manner, please accept the single Senate President, the assurances of my highest consideration, signed, yours sincerely, Muhammadu Buhari.
A second letter was also received from President Buhari calling for an amendment to the Petroleum Industry Act and asking Parliament to expand the composition of the board to promote national unity.
This amendment will provide a sense of participation and inclusion to almost every section of the country in the decision-making of strategic institutions such as the oil industry. If this amendment is approved, it will now increase the number of non-executive members from 2 to 6, that is, 1 person from each of the 6 geopolitical zones of the country. The proposed amendment will increase the membership of the board from 9 to 13 members, that is representing 44% expansion of the board size. This composition will strengthen the institutions and guarantee national spread and also achieve the expected policy contributions.
President Buhari is also asking that the portions of the Act which make provision for the Ministries of Finance and Petroleum to be appointed into the board of a commission be deleted, stating that both ministries already possess constitutional responsibilities of either supervision or intergovernmental affairs. In the meantime, a senator from Enugu State wants the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission to accord Enugu State the status of an oil-producing state.
The Revenue and Fiscal Mobilization Commission have gone a step further to recognize Kogi. They have recognized Anambra. What is left is Enugu State. Because from their letter they have written here by the Department of Petroleum Resources, the oil blocks, the OPL 915 and 916, they are in our area. So if they have done for the other 2, pending when the government of Enugu State comes up with their own actual issue. But I want to put it on record here. That we're asking the Revenue and Fiscal Mobilization Company, since they have accorded oil producing statute to our other neighbors, Kogi and Anambra, that they should extend same to Enugu State so that there will be peace.
Regarding the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, the Senate set up a 7-member conference committee on Wednesday during plenary with intent to harmonize positions between it and the House of Representatives on electronic transmission of election results. Both chambers had passed a bill earlier in July this year. The 2010 Electoral Act Amendment Bill 2021 differed on provisions of Clause 52 Sub 3, which deals with electronic transmission of election results. Meanwhile, the Senate has approved the medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper after considering the report of its finance committee.
The committee recommends that the daily crude oil production of 1.88, 2.23, and 2.27 for 2022, 2023, 2024 respectively be approved, in view of the average of 1.93 above the past 3 years and the fact that very conservative oil output benchmark has been adopted for the medium term in order to ensure a greater budget realism. 2, the bench oil mark of $57 per barrel should be approved because of the clear evidence of wider consultation with key stakeholders and the age-long fiscal strategy of addressing the oil price shock by the adoption of higher than forecast oil prices benchmark for fiscal projection and medium term. 3, the exchange rate of $410.15 proposed by the executive for the 2022-2024 be approved. 4, the GDP projected rate of 4.20 be approved. 5, the projected inflation rate of 13% also be approved. The Joint Committee also observed that there were frivolous deduction, diversion of funds, and under-reporting of revenue of MDAs, hiding under the disguise of the Establishing Act. The Joint Committee accordingly observed that the GMD of NNPC at the interactive session that the nation level of consumption of PMS is not reflecting the importation due to diversion, round-tripping, and smuggling across the borders.
Now finally, the Green Chamber is throwing its weight behind the police, calling for its exclusion from the contributory pension scheme, and a bill to ensure that has scaled second reading. Take a listen.
A day after retired police officers protested in Kaduna State over what they described as unsatisfactory pension, a lawmaker in the House of Representatives presented a bill for second reading to exclude the Nigerian police force from the contributory pension scheme.
Proposed amendment to the Pension Reform Act of 2014 to provide for the exemption of members of the Nigerian police force from the contributory pension scheme. This bill seeks to amend Section 5, subsection 1, paragraph A of the Pension Reform Act of 2014 to include the Nigerian police among those categories of services personnel that are not part of the Contributory Pension Act, like the Armed Forces, the DSS, the intelligence agencies are not part of the Contributory Pension Act. When the Nigerian police was brought under this act, the aim was to ensure that they get enhanced welfare, both while they are serving and at retirement. But, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, this has not been the case. In other climes where there's a contributory pension scheme, like in Chile, for example, the police force, just like other military forces, are not part of the contributory pension scheme. I want to plead, honorable colleagues, that you support this exception because the duties performed by the police, especially at this time of security challenges in our country, are enormous.
The bill scaled second reading as lawmakers insist that if passed, it will serve as a positive motivation for better service delivery.
From the argument and from what we feel is that the pension reform is worthless and useless. If I quote him, he said it has brought unbearable and regrettable consequences for police officers. Therefore, he seeks to extricate police from the pension reform. Very good. But are we going to extricate everybody, or are we now supposed to look at ways and remedying the pension reform?
If anybody wants to amend the police contributory pension scheme, the person can go ahead. But what we are talking about here today is that it is long overdue that our policemen should be treated with dignity. It's unacceptable that a deputy superintendent of police will be getting 1.5 million naira as pension, and his counterpart in army, like a captain, will be getting 12.8 million naira in the same country. It's unacceptable.
One of the lawmakers could totally relate with the clamor to exclude the police from the contributory pension scheme.
Police officers that served 35 years. When you're looking wretched, Mr. Speaker, looking wretched. There's one woman that even said she has dependent. Her old mother, her old father, they're still alive, but they're not even valuing her because you say, why do you go to the police? Why do you serve this country 35 years? You cannot even help us to eat food after your service. The reason why is contributory pension scheme.
Well, that's it on The Gavel this week. Thanks for watching. Send feedback to thegavel@channelstv.com. I'm Terry Ikumi. Goodbye.